Hey, folks. After some discussion last night's council meeting about some different programs that people want to try to get involved here in the borough to solve some of the youth problem, um, I've been having a few ideas that I've rolled out to a few people, and I've gotten a little bit of positive response. So, right now, I just want to kind of lay this out to anybody who's interested, anybody who may have some opinions, some ideas on how to improvement, some things I may be thinking wrong. There's just something that is an idea I've had in the back of my mind, and it's progressively been added to as we've seen these problems we've seen recently. So I want to just throw this out there and see what anybody thinks. If I can get any good, bad input back. A lot of the youth that we're seeing problems with here are already in the county juvenile justice system. They get in trouble here. Uh, they get referred to the county court. They're charged. They're tried. They're sentenced. They're usually placed on Lancaster County juvenile probation. That could mean anything from seeing a probation officer once a month, once every few months, one time, not at all. This all depends on the severity of the charges, prior records, things of that nature. The county is extremely overworked and overburdened in not only the court system, but the probation system, specifically the juvenile probation system. So we have a lot of kids everywhere in the county, but especially a large chunk, it seems, here in Columbia, who are already in the juvenile justice system that are just out and about and causing more problems. So, what can we do to solve this? Years ago, when I was knee high to a grasshopper, I didn't like going to school very much. And at one point, I got a school fine. Wasn't too happy about that. So I went and I saw District Justice Herman, and he was nice enough to change that into community service. And I did community service here in Columbia Borough. And I don't remember exactly how the program was set up, but I did community service here in Columbia Borough through the Boys and Girls Club for that, and that was as a juvenile. A little bit later on, I had gotten in some more trouble with the county, a little bit bigger trouble. I had my problems as a youth too. I think that gives me some place to speak here as well. And again, I was sentenced to community service here in Columbia because back then numbers weren't so bad, and they could say, "Hey, you live in Columbia. This is where you're going to do your." And I was overseen by a probation officer. I still remember his name was Tony Woods. And Tony Woods was a county probation officer, but he was specifically tasked with the juvenile probation cases in Columbia Borough. I don't believe that that's the specific case anymore. There's logistically no way that that system can have one probation officer overseeing all the juveniles here in the borough. Just the way their caseloads are set up, it's not possible. I think that it should be possible, and I think that it can be possible at a lower level. I think we should be able to establish some sort of a program that when these kids are out and they're getting in trouble for these very low level offenses, which most of them are harassment, destruction of property, noise violations, things like that, even, to some of the lower extent, some of the fighting ends up being not a horrible charge. That these could be set up as summary offenses. They could be referred to the magistrate, who would then refer them to a local level juvenile offender supervision program. This could be done by having a county probation officer as a liaison overseeing these cases. And I think basically how that would probably have to work is we would have to pay a salary for a county probation officer. And in the tradition of that, we could also turn around, I believe, and hire a secondary individual to fill that spot. I believe it would also be possible that we could take one of our existing police officers, or a few of them, and put them in that position, supervising these individuals. So what happens with them once they're referred and they're sentenced to this program? One, community service. Community service is an important thing. Community service is something that all youth, not just the ones involved in the system, are losing a sense of. And any of us older people, I'm in my late 30s, and certainly anybody my age and older than me can look around and see that it may not have been much larger, but everybody here and above had a much bigger sense of community and a much closer sense of community. None of us can deny that that's changed a lot. So we're talking about cleanup projects. There wouldn't be anything wrong with seeing a group of these kids walking around every day, Locust Street, 4th Street, 3rd Street, the main areas, picking up trash. Emptying the trash cans on Locust Street could be a daily thing depending on what the numbers of these people are, depending on how we could supervise them. We could also look at projects when we want to have the facade of a home painted, such as some of the areas on North 3rd Street. Projects like that, we can use that. They can be sentenced to this community service, and then we're turning it around, and we're not only using that as a positive for the community, but we're teaching them a sense of what they're giving their community. In the same respect, we also need to look at mentorship. There needs to be a way for these kids involved in this program to have somebody as an adult who is successful in one way or another, who has been through some of the things that they've been through, who can teach them something, who can tell them what their worth is, because most of them have no clue. We're talking professional people. Maybe we could get a contractor, say, to mentor some of these kids. Put a few kids to work for a few hours teaching them something that may be able to carry on into their future, into a vocation especially, that sticks. That'll stick with the good and the bad. Counseling. Counseling is another important area. So the supervisors of these juveniles would also be responsible for meeting with them and establishing if they would need any sort of family counseling, drug and alcohol counseling, crisis counseling. And then those are services that we can then contract with and have those people available for those kids. What I'm presenting here is very base level. But I think, in my crazy little mind, I think it's a good idea. And I think it's a way to start reaching that one group that seems to be the most problematic, but nobody really seems to know or want to get involved in trying to help. And there's a lot of us here, and we all have a lot of different knowledge, a lot of different experience, a lot of different training, a lot of different vocations. We are a community full of mentors. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and it won't be the first time. What if I'm right? Again, this is a very base idea, and I really, really want to know what you people think about what I presented here. So please, you see this video posted, make a comment, drop me a message on my Facebook page, in my private messages, over on the Ever the Villain page. It doesn't matter. I want feedback on